Now, President Trump took to Twitter on Friday to warn everyone not to believe news sources that have any anonymous sources involved. So now, let me go to his tweet here. He said, "Do not believe any article or story you read that uses anonymous sources having to do with trade or any other subject. Only accept information if it has actual living name on it. The fake news media makes up many sources. Many sources say stories. Do not believe them." Well, I've got many sources that say that that's not true. Okay, so anyway, so don't believe anything that people are saying with any of the some say sources, because some people are saying that those sources are unreliable. Oh, and look, here's the irony: Donald Trump loves anonymous sources. Why? Because he was an anonymous source. Look, there's a lot of speculation that President Trump himself has leaked quite a bit to the press from the White House. And even before, he wasn't exactly an anonymous source, but he was a fake source. So you guys remember, or you might not, because look, let's be honest, this last few years have been just a blur of disastrous stories. The news is so fast. But he used to call up media organizations, Trump did, and claim that his name was John Barron. So he'd call up as John Barron, and he would start dishing to reporters about Donald Trump. That's kind of weird. Now, it's also kind of funny. Not only did he say he was John Barron, but also he had the alias of John Miller. And so first it was John Barron, and then it's John Miller, and then to spice it up, David Dennison. Okay. So all of these are Trump alter egos that he did different things with. And he's like, oh, no, I got information on Trump's marriage or divorce with Marla Maples. And then I got this other person. There's this other guy. There's this other source. I believe his name is David Dennison, and he says that he's got some tremendous information on Donald Trump. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. So again, one of the things that he had talked about is like having an affair with celebrities or whatever. That was obviously completely untrue. And so he would use these aliases to go and spread fake news about himself. And now he was caught, obviously, because he's not a bright person. He's not the smartest guy. Not a very stable genius, right? Back in 1990, during some legal issues, as he's had many of those, Trump had admitted under oath that, I believe on occasion, I used that name. So now people obviously figured out, that he was Donald Trump and that he was using his names, because all he would do is talk about scandals for Donald Trump. And they could also figure it out on phone calls because of the way he talks. Let's be honest. So he is a source of fake news. Literally. But not just that. I remember back in 2012, or even before, when Donald Trump came up with the whole birther conspiracy theory that President Obama, he was not born in the U.S. You know what Trump said? He said he had a, quote, extremely credible source. Really? Who was that source, Donald Trump? Was it John Miller? Was it John Barron? I don't know who that source is. Hey, you know what that would make that? Anonymous. Weird. Huh. Strange. So, look, this is obviously ridiculous. This is, who does this? Who comes up with alter egos? Look, to be fair, he got it from his dad, right? So his dad, but see, the thing about him, Fred Trump, is that he actually used it strategically. So Fred Trump came up with a alter ego called Mr. Green. right? And so he would use that in order to inquire on properties. So he was trying to use it as a business tactical advantage because he knew that, hey, man, look, if I call inquiring as Fred Trump, then they're going to be more aggressive and they're going to try to, sell it at a higher prices. But if I start looking into it as Mr. Green, well, then maybe, I will be able to get the real information and then swoop in as Fred Trump and buy it and get the best deal. That makes a certain amount of business sense. But again, Donald's like, I can do better. Guess what? I'm going to come up with David Dennison, John Miller, and John Barrett. And so, I mean, the guy's ridiculous, man. So now social media, and I love this, they did what they do best. They ripped Trump apart, as usual. Starting with Brian Stelter. Brian Stelter said, simply to his response, says a man who's been an anonymous source for reporters for decades. You know who would know that? Brian Stelter, who's a reporter. Another one, Aaron Rupar, said John Barron and David Dennison could not be immediately reached for comment. Yes, well, they're probably out there somewhere still looking for Obama's birth certificate. That's what they're doing. Brian Tyler Cohen says, I'm assuming extremely credible sources are still okay. Like, again, the ones looking for Obama's birth certificate. Justin Taylor says, simply, quote, okay, birther. Oh, I like that. I like it instead of okay, boomer, right? Which, again, there are people that are obviously upset about it for understandable reasons, right? This is better. Okay, birther. So good. Andrea Junker says, the party told you to reject all evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. You know what that's a quote from? 1984. That's George Orwell. Sounds a lot like what Trump is actually saying. Don't believe your eyes and ears. Don't believe the evidence that's in front of you. Don't believe it because it's all fake. No. The person that you have to listen to is me. Now, Betsy Klein adds in, I'll keep this in mind next time the White House responds to inquiries on background to an official. Jeremy Newberger says, many people are saying this is how you should digest the news. Many, many people are saying. And you know what? They're great people. Wonderful people. Okay. Publius says, many people have told you, your legal scholars, your generals, you are the biggest offender of that advice. There's plenty more of these. Okay. This is a quote from Donald Trump saying that he had an extremely credible source that had called his office and told me that Barack Obama's birth certificate is a fraud. It's a great example of this, right? Janie's Got a Bun says, oh, hold on. Sorry, no. Gerald Beer says, unless, of course, I say that person is lying. Jonathan Swan said, usually once or twice a week. And again, Jonathan Swan, the reporter from Axios, he said, usually once or twice a week, a senior White House official hold officially sanctioned, anonymously sourced calls with dozens of reporters from American outlets and sometimes international outlets. They demand that these calls be attributed to senior administration officials. A little bit of hypocrisy here going on. Interesting. And finally, David Weissman points out that we shouldn't believe a president who has lied over 13,000 times. That's 13,000 documented times where he has just lied. And the thing is, he has lied about, yes, important things, but also lies about incredibly unimportant things, like crowd sizes. Going back to the inauguration, I had the greatest crowd size, bigger than Obama, bigger than anyone. No, you didn't. That doesn't even matter. Like, I don't care. Maybe some of your people couldn't afford to turn out in Washington, D.C. And that's fine. Nobody cares about your crowd size. And yet, he had to lie about it anyway. The guy's ridiculous. And look, he's lied, like I said, used anonymous sources, or just completely made up those sources out of whole cloth, all in order to spread fake news literally about himself. This is projection. Also, it's gaslighting. I mean, the president has gaslighted the nation for the last 3 years, man. Again, and there's a reason why. He thinks that everybody is a liar and cheat like he is. That they would do the same thing that his daddy taught him to do. Come up with fake sources to talk about yourself, to get yourself in the limelight, and to spread fake news. That's who he is. Look, he also said, by the way, and this is how much of a narcissist he is. Don't believe your lying eyes. Only I'm right. Don't listen to anybody else. Don't listen to quote unquote fake news media. I'm the only one that you could trust. I'm the only one that's right. Ridiculous, man. This is what a cult leader says. And not the president of the United States. And I do, by the way, have to point out, Trump is not an aberration. And we've got to get this straight, right? And we've got to admit that this is where the Republican Party has ultimately been headed for the last 30 years, probably. Now, why do I say that? Well, because, look, Republican voters and Republican politicians, by and large, reject basic facts now. There used to be a time where Republicans were, people that you could mainly reason with. And I'm not saying all Republicans are like this. I'm saying that there's a giant chunk of the Republican Party now that just rejects basic facts. It's not like we disagree on policy. We do, obviously, right? I'll disagree with policy and with conservatives, but even conservatives, some of them have to accept facts. And I've had arguments, I've had disagreements with them before where they are like, yeah, I understand, but, of course I agree that the sky is blue, but still, here's where we disagree on something else. Like, for example, economic policy. Okay, I get it. You can have disagreements with those people. The people that you cannot disagree with or have a conversation with and a civil disagreement are the people that say, no, the sky's purple. No, it's not. It's clearly blue. No, they reject basic facts. And then they tell you fake news. I mean, this is where the Republican Party has been heading for a long time. Okay? They don't read anything. They listen to their pastors. They listen to their Republican think tanks. They listen to Fox News, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity. Again, these are people that do not look at facts. They spread propaganda. And so is there any surprise that the Republican Party, the Republican voter, ends up not believing in facts? And Trump is just the natural result of that kind of environment, of a populace that is resistant to facts. So if you want to blame anything for Trump, you start with the dumbing down of America. But there is one other important thing. And this is something that I've seen him capitalize on incredibly effectively. And that's distrust for the press. The whole fact that this show does exist is because the press does not do their job. That the press has been a tool of protecting wealthy corporate interests. And we all know this. That's why you guys have abandoned CNN and MSNBC, because they are corporate backed and they do have an agenda to help the companies. And so there is no trust in media. And when you have no trust in media and no belief in facts anymore, well, guess what you get? You get a segment of the population that don't believe in anything that you say. And when you get a guy like Donald Trump who says, you're right, don't trust them, only trust me, because I'm the only one that's right. I'm the only one that's telling you the truth. And sometimes he has. For example, when he talked about how politicians get money from donors and do whatever the hell they want. That is absolutely true. That's the kind of thing that makes people go, hey, you know what? This guy, he might actually be onto something. And that's enough to suck people in to this whirlwind of lies that surrounds Donald Trump on a daily basis. That's how they get sucked in, man. It's just like people getting sucked into conspiracy theories. There's always a little bit of a kernel of truth. And then here come the mountain of lies. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.